Hi, I'm Heather Poduska, founder of the Brand Star Academy, where I teach entrepreneurs how to be powerful, profitable speakers and create their own celebrity personal brands. Welcome to Thrive, the show where I bring you tips, resources, and people to help you create a more abundant life and business. You're in for high-value content coming to you from industry leaders who are growing their business, making an impact, and rocking their brands. I am super excited to have my guest here today, Linda Ugelow. Linda Ugelow is a speaker, author, and confidence coach who helps new and seasoned professionals overcome the fear of public speaking while communicating effortlessly and effectively across different media, on camera, on stage, in the media, and in the meeting room. She's also the producer of the TV show Women Inspired and was the host and emcee at TEDx Debrecen University in Hungary. Her upcoming book, Delight in the Limelight, is due out in the spring of 2020. Welcome, Linda.
I'm very excited to be here.
I'm super excited to have you here too, because season 2 of Thrive is all about the intersection of the arts and entrepreneurship, creativity and business. And I'm really excited to have you here because one of the things that wasn't highlighted a lot in your bio was that you're also a dancer.
I am a dancer, and actually I sing.
And you sing, that's right, I forgot about that. And you sing.
I'm part of a women's world music group called Labana, and we're going on our 40th season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, so, and what kind of music is it?
World music.
What's world music?
So we find and we research and perform music from different cultures around the world.
Wow.
And sometimes that includes some dancing, and I'm the principal dancer.
Wow, that's so cool.
We sing in countless different languages. We work with people from lots of different countries to help us do what we do well.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And is that, so I'm afraid I butchered the name of the TEDx location in Hungary.
Oh, in Hungary, Debrecen.
Debrecen.
Yeah, you know, something unusual about the Hungarian language is that the accent is always on the first syllable of the word.
Oh, that's good.
No matter how many syllables it has, like egészségedre.
God bless you.
Exactly. Actually, it means, do you know that word?
No, I don't.
It means to your health. So if someone sneezes, that's exactly what it is.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's amazing.
That's so funny. So, Debrecen.
Yes.
Okay, very good, very good. So what brought you to Debrecen? Was that part of the singing group that brought you there for the TEDx MC and hosting? How did you get there?
That was one of those circumstances My husband is Hungarian.
Oh, okay.
And he has a company in Hungary, and one of his employees had a sister who was coming to visit the office, and she mentioned that she was co-producing a show, a TEDx show. And my husband just mentioned that I was interested in those sorts of things.
Yeah.
She asked for my website, she looked me up, and she reached out to ask me if I would come and do that. I wasn't in Hungary at the time, but I was planning to visit at the exact time that she was needing somebody.
That is serendipity.
It was serendipity.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So do you speak Hungarian?
I do, but luckily I could do it all in English.
Oh, were the contestants speaking in Hungarian, or were they
It was all in English because it was the graduate school in particular, and English is the international language.
Oh, wow.
So they took classes in English. And
wow.
Yeah, so there were people from Africa and Asia and the Middle East and Hungarians. It was all mixed up.
Cool. So you were hosting and emceeing.
So I was the introducer. I was the one who, welcomed everybody, in the audience and told them about, what to expect. And then I introduced each person and kept it moving along.
Wow, that's so fascinating. So since you're a public speaking expert, I just wanted to dive into TED a little bit, because a lot of people who want to speak are like, want to do a TEDx, they want to do, get on the TED stage or the website. What did you learn from that experience about TED Talks and speaking for the TED stage that is different from any other kind of speaking? Did you pick up anything that's different about that?
Well, maybe not particularly from being there, and I have not done my own TED Talk, by the way. I plan to do one at some point, but right now I'm focused on my book writing, and I'm developing a new talk to bring around as a keynote.
Yeah.
So that's my focus at the moment. But what I do know about TED is that it's really about the idea. It's not about your business. It's about something that you can share whether from your life experience or something that you've researched that you think is something that you want people to think more about.
Right, it's about the big idea.
It's about the big idea worth sharing, exactly. So it's totally a no-no to, sell or pitch anything about your business.
Right.
I mean, there are people who will mention, working with clients on occasion, but they do not appreciate you kind of side-slipping in promotion about your business. They really want it to be a gift.
Yeah,
it's a gift.
Yeah, and it makes sense because it's about the idea, and I love that actually because it's not a pitch fest, and people can talk about things that maybe they're passionate about that isn't necessarily connected to their business.
That's right. It could be or it could not be.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, what do you notice for people, now you've emceed the TED Talk, but you work with people who want to be speakers. What do you notice that people struggle with the most that gets them tripped up in that anxiety and fear about stepping onto the stage?
Well, first I want to say that not everybody has a fear of being seen. Some people are. I mean, what about you? Aren't you one of those people?
Well, yeah, I think I mean, I get nervous sometimes, but I love the interaction. That's what I love about it. I love sharing and getting the immediate feedback. The feedback loop for me is very short. So it's not that I don't ever get nervous. It's just that I enjoy that feedback loop.
And the enjoyment overshadows the nervousness that you get. So the balance is in the right direction.
Right.
For people who feel like it's not comfortable, and I was one of those people until 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's what makes me so helpful for people in my coaching is that I've been there. I know what it's like.
Right.
So I'm very empathetic, and most of my clients, I think to myself, I know what that is like.
Yeah. But that's so great because when you're coming to someone and they seem like they've always been in the spotlight and they're super gregarious, and then you're like, well, I'm not.
That's right. They don't understand me. They don't get where I'm coming from. So people who say, oh, just practice a lot and prepare and you'll be fine. A person might say, well, you don't understand. And I get that because I feel like there's overlap. You can get nervous for not being prepared, absolutely. But there are plenty of prepared people. I've worked with seasoned speakers who get paid thousands of dollars to deliver their keynotes, and they are still nervous on stage because it's a different matter. What it is you have past evidence that it's not safe to be seen.
Oh, that's deep.
And this can happen in any number of ways. I discovered it for myself, just, I don't know, by the grace of the universe. It kind of came to me one day when I had been live streaming every day. I was showing up. I was doing it for 12 weeks every single day. And I assumed that with practice, I'd feel more comfortable. And then I got to some day 75, and I'm thinking, why is my heart still racing? Why is it still pounding? Why am I still feeling like I'm going to have a heart attack?
Wow, yeah.
And I just hated this feeling. It's like I thought, what can I do to get rid of this? And then this sense of curiosity came over me, like, could I get rid of this? Now, what if someone came to me, because I was life coaching at the time, what if someone came to me with this issue? How would I help them? And I have a degree in movement studies through an Expressive Therapies.
Movement studies, okay.
But it was in the Department of Expressive Therapies at Lesley College, which is now Lesley University.
I'm so glad you said that because I just went to a Lesley graduation and they named that degree and I was like, what is that? So that's what
Expressive Therapies, yeah. So it's using art as a means of, well, art can be used in therapy in different ways, but the way I was particularly drawn to is bringing the unconscious into the light.
Wow.
Like seeing what's deep inside, what's hidden, and bringing it out so you can look at it with thoughtfulness and it has a chance of being healed. So that day when I was fed up, I said, well, I have a list of tools that I've gotten through the expressive therapy training and through therapy and through lots of self-help that I've done for decades. I made a list, but then I thought to myself, before I kind of get rid of it, let's see what it is. And I closed my eyes to connect with the fear. And what came back was, I'm going to be attacked.
Wow.
And the first thing that came to my mind is, well, is this the saber-toothed tiger story of, our cellular memory? And I thought, no, I've been attacked as a kid. Mm. I was the goody-goody, and my mom would yell at my sisters to be more like me. Ah. And every time she did it, I knew what was going to happen. As soon as she was out of sight, they charged, kicked me in the shins, and yelled, "Shut up, stupid," or something to that effect.
Well, yeah.
Much louder than I'm saying it here.
Yeah.
And then it hit me. I thought, oh my God, I don't feel safe on camera or speaking in front of an audience, because there's a part of me that remembers it was dangerous to be put in the center of attention.
Well, not just dangerous, but dangerous in your most protective people, your most protective community of your family. So it wasn't just like something from the outside, but where you're supposed to be the safest.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that until later on. I thought that was a normal thing.
Yeah.
But it's true. I did not feel safe in my family constellation. I felt safe in my room, where no one would bother me.
Wow.
And the other thing, though, I loved my sisters, and
of course,
I wanted them to love me, and I knew I would not get their love if I was the center of attention.
Wow.
And when I thought about that, just 4 years ago, I asked myself, is that still true? Because we've been friends for decades. And I realized it was. I realized that I still felt like if I succeeded, if I got too much attention, that they wouldn't love me anymore. And of course, I realized that's not true, but it's an imprint that we have in our bodies. So when someone has fear, I ask them, when did you decide it was safer to hide?
What a powerful question. Wow. That's amazing.
And then the process is about discovery, like looking back. And some people say, oh, I don't want to do therapy. Well, I'm sorry, but if you really want to move forward in your life, you would do well to have the courage to review what are you dragging around with yourself?
Can I ask you a question about that? Because you know my story of singing and having body tension, and I did many years of therapy, intensive therapy, and I still had body tension and issues with my singing even after that. So, and I know that you have success with your clients of helping them unlock some of that tension and some of that fear. So my question is, why doesn't therapy always work for these kinds of issues that manifest maybe in our bodies or in our performance life?
Yeah, I don't want to therapy bash.
No,
but
no.
I had found when I did talking therapy, I found it very limited because we aren't just cognitive.
Yeah,
we're emotional and we're physical. Our emotions live in our physical body. The imprints live in our body. It's like my heart, when I was standing in front of the camera, I wasn't thinking, oh, because my sisters did this to me, I'm afraid. No, it was like, why is my heart still racing?
Right.
It's like that is the shortcut. It's my body knowledge, my body intelligence saying, danger, danger, remember what happened?
Yes, I'm so glad that you said that, because I'm not bashing therapy either, because it works for so many things. But when you put the time and effort in and you come away and you're still like, something else is going on or something's not being addressed.
It's not being addressed, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm all for being thoughtful. I think our minds are amazing in how we're able to reframe through thoughtfulness. So I definitely feel like we need to use our minds, but we also need to address the emotions, and we need to address the physicality. The way, it's like, it's a neurophysiological imprint.
Yes.
And we have the memory, and we have this feeling, body feeling part of the memory. What we need to do is decouple it. Deactivate it, or like pull the plug out of the charge, so that your body isn't going into a recreation of whatever it was. Sometimes it's not even in our conscious mind. I mean, things can happen before we have words.
Right.
It sometimes may be generational. We don't really, I don't necessarily deal with that, although I do in a little bit, because I feel like people who are wounded wound.
You can have really great emotional or psychological insights from the work that you do with a therapist or a mentor or whatever. And sometimes it's still, even though your brain is getting it, your body still has things locked inside.
It's still locked in the neurophysiological pathway.
Yeah.
So it's like our whole body works together. And things get stored with a pattern.
So do you feel like you have to address those things from the body, or can you address the body through the mind?
I think you can do...
Do they work hand in hand?
I think you can come at it from a lot of different angles. And I like to use a variety of different modalities when I work with my clients, because I want to be thorough. Yeah. I guess is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we clear it all out. So one of the techniques I love to use is called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, or tapping. And what I love about EFT, you're tapping supposedly on meridian points. And what I've heard...
Like for people who don't know, like acupuncture.
Who don't, acupuncture points on the face and the head. And what I have read, I don't know if this is why it works, but it says it interrupts the patterning in the body of what you're talking about. So if you go back and you acknowledge, my father told me I would never succeed. So that was something my father said to me. Never succeed. I'll never succeed at dance. I felt so discouraged. And I go through all the feelings that I had around that. And then I might, everybody does EFT differently. The way I like to do it is I start with where the distress is, acknowledging it. I don't want to sweep it away. I want to decouple. I want to interrupt the pattern. The tapping helps to do that. And honoring it, because those are our experiences, and I think we need to honor the life experiences we had, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We don't want to carry the distress from them with us. So we acknowledge them, and then I bring people into a sense of where they are right now, or where they want to be, or how they're making a change, or how they're doing things differently, and what their understanding as an adult may be that they didn't have at the time. And so it draws it into a place of bringing yourself up to your current status, where you are in this moment. So that I had one client recently said, I feel caught up with myself now.
Wow. Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you were telling me before we started about one of your clients that had this really great transformation in their creative business. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So it was the same client, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. So she is an artist, and her parents were both artists struggling. So they had their own woundedness about being artists themselves. They felt like they weren't good enough, that everything was kind of hard and against them, and maybe they didn't have the right talent. And this was hard for her as a child to see her parents struggling. So on the one hand, she was trying to help them feel better. And on the other hand, in herself, feeling like, well, maybe I'm not good enough either. Yeah. So it can be complicated. However, what I think is really important to do in this work is, I think of it as psychic clutter. In Expressive Therapies at Lesley College, we studied a lot of Jungian psychology, because he was, do you know Jung, Carl Jung?
Yes.
He's the one who coined introversion, extroversion, synchronicity, cool concepts like that. And he thought of the psyche as the place, the body mind that holds everything that we've ever experienced. Some things we remember and some things we don't. So it's the unconscious and the unconscious mind. So I think when I read about it, I thought, oh, it's kind of like a closet, like a psychic closet. And in the psychic closet, I think of there being three kinds of clutter that relate to this feeling of not feeling safe being seen. It's our impacting past experiences. So maybe my father telling me I'd never succeed, or it could be my sisters saying, shut up, stupid, or me feeling like it wasn't safe. The second thing is our belief system. So like in the case of this particular client, I mean, it's not just one, but she had parents who had beliefs that only certain people could be artists. You can work your whole life really hard and not really make it.
Right.
Maybe it could be mixed up with money's bad. There can be all kinds of things.
Right.
So it's important to look at those in addition to the past experiences. Of course, you may have absorbed those things in the past, but if you're just looking at what happened to me, you might miss the beliefs.
Yes.
And then the third thing are the thoughts that you have in your own head in terms of your self-talk.
Yes.
So when you asked me at the very beginning of the show, what happens for people when they are afraid?
Yes.
A lot of what's happening is the self-talk. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe people aren't going to like me. I might mess up. What happens if I stumble over my words? So it's a lot of like languaging to the self. I had one client who knew that speaking was a really great way to build her business. And all the way to her gigs, she would say, you know, who do you think you are that people are going to listen to you and you're going to mess up and, what have you got to say that no one else has, that everyone else hasn't already said, all these things. And if you were, let's say, if you were to get up on stage right here, I would never say that to you.
Right, nor would I say that to anybody else.
But we think that inside ourselves it's okay. We might not even notice that we're saying it. We don't even hear what it sounds like. It's very important to speak your thoughts out loud, to run it through a filter. I call it the best friend test. Or I do it, I say my daughter, I'll think, was that a mean thought I just had?
You're right.
And I can't even tell because it's in my head.
Wow.
So I'll say it out loud. I'll say, my daughter's name's Lexi. I'll say, Lexi, you're really slow at this, aren't you?
Wow.
And I think, no, I wouldn't say that to her.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I might not even know that I'm thinking that.
Wow. I like that best friend test, because you wouldn't say those things to someone you care about.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
So there is also a very important process of committing and learning to speak to yourself as you would your best friend. Because you know what? No one can be there for you 100% of the time. The best parent, the best spouse, the best child, the best friend.
Right.
But you can be there for yourself 100% of the time.
It's so funny because we're talking about singing and dancing and speaking, and I was just listening to a podcast about a world-class tennis player, and she was just talking about that. She was saying, you prepare, you have your mentor, you have your coach, you do all this training, but you step onto the court all by yourself.
Yep. That's
it. You've got you, yourself, and you when you step out there. So it's what's between your ears.
Absolutely. Yeah. And people think, I read this all the time, the inner critic, you can't get rid of it. I totally disagree.
I was just going to ask you that. So
I totally disagree. Yeah. I feel we learn to communicate effectively with other people. We don't come out of the womb knowing how to communicate well. We learn it over time. And sometimes we learn how not to do it before we learn how to do it.
Right.
And nobody, or just recently, are people talking about how to communicate with ourselves.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's just a matter of awareness and learning and some practice. And it's not like you have to do it perfectly,
right?
Because we're imperfect beings, but we can attempt to be as nice as we can.
Yeah, and I think the awareness piece, what you're saying, that sometimes you're not even aware, I think that's one of the places where therapy can be very, very helpful.
Absolutely.
Because, when you first start going, you're not even aware of the chatter or the stories that you're telling yourself. So I didn't mean to imply that it wasn't useful. I was talking about the other piece, that it gets in your body.
Absolutely. And the thing is that awareness by itself also isn't enough sometimes. Because
what do you do with awareness?
What do you do with awareness? And also maybe you have resistance. So you may not feel like you are worthy of being spoken nicely to.
Wow.
Because you might be holding on to guilt or shame or...
Right.
So these things are interconnected. When you have fear anywhere, I mean, I work with people who are, high achievers usually, but it really is anywhere in our life. But when we have fear, it's not just one experience usually, or one thought or one belief. It's an accumulation, because you might have things early on, and then as we live life, we tend to recreate some of the same experiences, or they just happen to repeat themselves for whatever reason. And then
I'm more the former. I think that we tend to operate on this track that's going, and then we recreate a lot of the same.
I think, yes, but I don't want to, some people may be living in a particular kind of situation where we can't.
Yes.
They don't have control.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you about this worthiness piece, because I think that's a tricky thing. You may have awareness, you may have tools, you may have done coaching, you may have done therapy, you may have done EFT, but that worthiness piece, I think that's a really, tough nut to crack. How do you get at that?
I feel like comes from the same origins. It's like, where did you learn you were not worthy? Every single child who comes out into this world has the potential of worthiness. The only reason why they wouldn't is if that was reflected back to them.
Can you give us an example, a pretend example of how a child might learn not worthy?
Neglect.
Okay.
So I had one client who was an orphan in Asia. For 3 years. She lived in an orphanage.
Whoa.
And there were a lot of kids there and didn't get a lot of attention.
Right.
And then she got adopted into a conservative Christian family here in the U.S. And they had very particular ideas about what you should be and like and do. And she happened to be very artistic, very sensitive, very spiritual in a non-religious way. And she felt like, and she loved to dance. She loved art. And for her parents, that was complete rubbish. So this value disconnect really impacted her, that she even showed herself anonymously in everything she did, because she felt like she couldn't be seen for who she was. It didn't feel safe.
I see. Yeah. So that who she was not valued in the community of her family.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So sometimes it's not like someone actually saying, you're not worthy, you don't deserve this. It's the sort of unspoken cues sometimes, or the more subtle cues that we absorb.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really...
Or, my mom used to say things like, I can't wait till you girls are back in school so I can have my time to myself. So what did I gather from that? It's like, I'm a burden.
Oh.
I'm a bother. I mean, I knew she loved me too.
Yeah, of course.
But there was still some elements. See, that's why it's not like we're parent bashing or whatever. I mean, our environments are imperfect.
Right.
And my mom had a really kind of messed up childhood too. I mean, her mom tied her to a tree so she wouldn't run away.
Wow.
I mean,
that's tough.
It's tough. I mean, like,
tough.
She did the best she could.
Everybody's always doing the best they can.
Everybody's doing the best they can.
Yeah.
And I think that part of this work, it's about letting go of the past so you can really be truly in the present. When you get on stage, you don't want to be carrying a suitcase of triggered memories with you. You want to be present so you can be in the conversation, so you can be sharing your material, that you can be fully expressive the way you feel like being expressive.
Yeah.
And you can really only truly do that when you are not being held back or pulled back from things in the past.
Let me ask you another question. There are a lot of people that are out there performing that are messed up. Like a lot, that they're at the top of their game and they're great performers, but they probably have 20 suitcases that they've brought on stage with them. What about those people?
Well, I'm not saying that you can't be a good performer.
Okay.
You can be a fabulous performer, but what is your inner experience?
Ooh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So do they get off stage and think, that was
Right, or go
crap or
right.
whatever. I don't want to. I'm censoring myself.
Oh no, I totally get what you're saying though, and like what what other vice might pop up as a result of having those extra baggages.
So
and also the freedom with which you perform. Like you might perform and be a great performer, but how much better could you be and freer could you be if you didn't have those?
Yeah. But I'm also going for happiness.
Yes.
I'm going for joy. I want, and that it's not that you need to perform in order to get the accolades.
The self-validation first.
You have the self-validation. I mean, it doesn't necessarily, it goes together. It can go back and forth, but that you aren't dependent on that to feel worthy.
I love that.
That you do it from a generous heart.
Oh, that's really powerful. So if people want to work with you or find out more about your work in every aspect that you do, how can people find you?
They can go to my website, lindaugelow.com.
LindaUgelow.com.
Yes.
And are you on social media? Are you
Everything is Linda Ugelow. There's no name like mine, so.
Good branding. I tell people that all the time. Use your name. Use your name for your brand.
The downside is people don't know how to pronounce it, Ugelow, Ugelow, but the upside is that very few people have that.
Hey, people didn't know how to say Oprah when she first came out either.
That's true.
So
true.
I would go with that.
Now, the other thing I want to mention, though, is that I do have a guided meditation for speaking confidence.
Nice.
And if people want to get that, they can get that. Go to lindaugelow.com/speaking confidence.
Okay, cool. We'll put that in the show notes too. And you also have a book coming out in the spring, next spring.
Yes.
What is it? Can you give us a little?
That's called Delight in the Limelight.
I like that.
Overcome your fear of being seen and realize your dreams.
Oh, I love that.
So I am really wanting to see people, be able to do what is in their hearts to do and not be held back.
I love it.
So I'm hoping that the book will be a transformational read.
I'm sure it will be. I mean, you're pouring your heart and soul into it. And I just want to thank you for being here and also acknowledge you using your life to help other people with this. And I don't know what bolt of lightning struck you 4 years ago to open up your eyes about this, but I'm so grateful because I know my own journey, how painful that was for me. And I mean, as a performer, we're always still growing and learning how to open and unfold, and to have people like you that can help people love themselves, validate themselves, share their voice. I mean, that's priceless. So I really want to acknowledge you for doing that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and thanks for being here and sharing all your insight on our show as well. And I always ask people, before you go, Linda, what does it mean to you to thrive?
Thriving to me is a feeling of expansion in my body.
I love that. And of course, from the dancer.
Yeah, and also how do you know what feels good? It's that body feeling. It's like that day at the beach when you just like let go, or floating on the dock in the middle of a pond, or sitting by the river, wherever it is, that's your favorite spot, and that feeling of openness and ease.
Well, this summer when I'm at the beach, I'm going to be thinking of you.
Oh, good.
Linda, I'm thriving now.
Thriving.
Thank you so much for being here.
It was a real honor.
Thank you. And thank you as well for joining us. And as always, until next time, here's to hitting all your high notes. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.